Hello there. I would like to invite you back for another conversation uh, about interpersonal communication today. Now, this conversation is brought to you by the Harper's Garden Foundation, which generously is providing funding for this video series. Yeah. All right, we are in it to win it today. We'll be talking about the principles of the interpersonal communication process. And if you're taking notes like you're in a real class, like some people might be, then you will be starting the page with a sentence that says, communication is a social event characterized by process, structure, and transaction. And then that's also one of them, their previews. So now we know we're going to talk about process, structure, and transaction, right? Now, the process of communication has several characteristics. And the first of these characteristics is what is called circularity. I think I think this is kind of fun. Yeah, this is the idea that communication is circular. It's always ongoing, right? We always sending and receiving both messages and feedback. And why do you look at me that way? And we monitor the other person's behavior so that we can change our own. See how I worked in the example that way into yeah, okay. Now that was your A point. That was circularity. So the process is circular. We are constantly, like continuously, circularly communicating with one another. Now, all right, I'm going to be honest on this and tell you that I have done this one a little bit more than once. And maybe a little bit more than twice, but we're going to try it one more time today. And if it don't work, we're going to put it off to some other day because we on leave. We don't got some people waiting for us to see it tomorrow. Shit, I ain't supposed to say that. Shit. I ain't supposed to say that either. Oh my heaven. Alrighty. Well, there's a whole lot of complexity going on here, and I bet I just busted some impressions and perceptions. But that actually is relevant to this next point. So maybe I did it on purpose. Yeah, I did it on purpose. At the very least, every interpersonal conversation involves at least 6 categories. I want you to know that, right? And we always monitoring them, and they always changing, right? And we can talk about 3 of them real close and everything. So the first of them is what you call the I see me perception, right? That's the perception I have of myself and who I am, my whole me, right? And then I have a perception of you. That's a little bit lower if I can get my finger in here. Perception of you, right? And that perception of you is who I think you are. Yeah. And then I have a perception of you seeing me, right? That is, I have hopefully some idea of who it is I think you're looking at when you look at me. And that number 3 category changes quite widely when people change, because the peoples themselves have different perceptions and they're going to see you differently as well. You can't expect every single person to see you the same way. Oh shit, I got taken away again. Anyway, we got 3, 1, I see. I ain't counting them. You see them appear, right? I see me. I see you. And I see you seeing me. There, it works out if I just get back a little bit. Get off my own bad self, right? All right. And I said there was 6, right? And what's going on is you see you, you see me, and you see me seeing you. Now, our perceptions of each other are not nearly as complete as our perceptions of ourselves. You know what I'm saying? And that is also impactful. And so, but every time we talk, we learn a little bit, and then we adjust our perception of the other person, or we offer information. That's what I needed to say. We offer information up, and the other person has to adjust their perception of who. What the hell? I have a perception of who I think you're seeing. So if I tell a funny joke and I think I'm funnier and I'll get out, but I see you roll your eyes, as is so easy to do through the internet, right? Then I have to adjust who it is I think you're seeing when you look at me. Does that make sense? Right. I always hated having to adjust how Grandpa thought about me whenever he heard me swear. I tried to pretend I didn't swear, but then sometimes things would happen. I'd be like, fuck that. I mean, I wouldn't say it quite like that. And there, look, I've lost some credentials there. Some people are like, how come you had to say that word? Right? Well, I did. Yeah. So that's complexity. Now, your C point here, if you're following along like you was taking a class or something, is irreversibility and unrepeatability. And in this case, they on the same point. But in other books, you get into the textbooks, they now make them separate observations because communication is irreversible. Right? You cannot go back and take back things that you have said or done. Like there's many a politician who wishes that was the case. And especially nowadays as we got the people with them cell phones running around and the fact that the internet itself takes pictures of itself and you can never quite get rid of something that's up on the internet. Like you never know when somebody's gonna be around to like take a picture of what's going on too, so then it ain't just memory, you know. But irreversible, whether or not it's recorded, if you say something to someone, they're going to have a hard time forgetting that you said it. You know what I'm saying? That's why sometimes we got to be more careful with what we say if we're angry. And maybe more liberal with what we say when we're happy. You know, it works both ways. Anyway, communication is irreversible. So we got to think a little bit before we say something, rather than having to apologize for words that can never be unsaid. You know what I'm saying? And the other idea here is that communication is unrepeatable. You cannot say the same thing twice with the same effect. You cannot say the same thing twice with the same effect. You cannot say the same thing twice with the same effect. You can't say the same thing twice with the same effect. You can't say the same thing twice with the same effect. Now, I did just now say the same thing more than one time, but I guarantee you, every time I said it, whether you was looking or not, me and my antics, whether you was looking or not, you saw that you can't say the same thing twice with the same effect because every time it changed. There was a slight nuance in the change. And after a while, maybe it even got irritating because you're like, I get the point. I get the point already. Right? That's why the first time is always special. Oh, Harper. Well, we got to finish one more point here. All right. So, the final point we're going to talk about is this thing right here. Synergism, right? Synergism. Hell, that sounds almost wrong, don't it? Let's just say it this way: communication is synergistic, right? That it is more than the sum of its parts. This is one of them equations that helps out in mathematics that don't really involve numbers but do kind of, right? This is the idea where you take one and you get three, right? And that's an okay kind of, I hope I did that in the right direction. Did I need to do it this way? One, and then you get three on that side. I don't, because I actually have some of that dyslexia. That's why my tooth appears to change from time to time. I keep forgetting which insert I'm using and which one I'm leaving out. Yeah. So, anyway, communication is synergistic, and that means when you get two people together, they create something that you can't get with any other part. That's special and unique to them, and it's more than them just doing the sum of the parts kind of thing, right? Now, back when she was teaching, we used to get two very, handsome young men, which is pretty much any young man in my class. And I suppose I could get a young woman to do it and she'd be a handsome young, whatever. I just need people who can lift a heavy desk. because they got them heavy desks up there in front of the classroom, right? Anyway, I get them to move the desk, like, and when the desk is hard and it's just one person, they can only move one end of it, right? And then the other person gets in there and then they move their end of it. And it's difficult. It's like you running around to each end of it, or you like make a video with all yourself and having to film it somebody, whatever. We ain't doing that, right? Okay, so it's synergistic, right? What really is the magic is when it happens and you're both working together, clink, right? And you bring it forward together, as opposed to the effort involved 1+1. Like this synergy, the 1+1=3 equation, is the idea that communication, that conversation, is more than it would be if you was just putting in your half without the co-creation process going on. I hope that I have explained that. Yeah. Food is a little bit like that. Every dish that you make, if you're one of them foodies, right? Every dish that they make, it has a particular combination of ingredients, right? And you change one of them ingredients, it changes the whole thing, and that's part of that synergy going on. Yeah. And you put them in combinations, whatever. We ain't going into food. What the? All right, I'm going to end this here because we just finished the first part of this particular lecture, the process. Just looking at the characteristics of the process of communication. Now, when we come back, we'll be talking about the structure. I'll be talking to you too again, I think.